So if that means we're going to get Matt and Trey and the team working on a South Park game and it's only a 15-hour game, awesome.
I think it's actually a nail in the coffin for the BioShock franchise. One of Take-Two's strengths as a company is also one of their greatest weaknesses.
Every 4 months we have 2 new leagues. One of them is softcore, one of them is hardcore, and one of them is called Ambush, the other is Invasion. They both have sort of new and interesting properties about them.
It's clear that this wasn't planned. And I think this is a response to PlayStation 4 sales.
I feel like I've kind of outgrown MMOs and the concept of the gameplay of it, whereas like the only reason I was playing City of Heroes as much as I was because of my guild.
Kaz is going to figure it out, and he definitely gets a game business, and I think he's holding the game business accountable to being very profitable because it's a big profit center for them.
Wow. Wow.
Oh, wow. Boobies. Must have. Must touch. Boobies.
So literally all you've played is just a stream. And just that 1 hour, you haven't touched it at all.
But I've seen you play a ton of it. You know, like I heard you laugh outside my office, so I'd run out and see.
So you'd run out and check it out?
I beat it.
You beat it?
Yep.
Congratulations,
I'm
Jeremy.
done. So
how long did it take you? Did it only take you 5 hours?
I have no idea. Because I was like just doing other things around my house, and a fight would happen. I would just get up, walk away, make some Cheez-Its, come back 25 minutes later. Like I was not paying attention.
It's an easy game to walk away from.
Yeah, I mean any of the combat sections, or yes, you could easily walk away from it.
The quickest way to the kingdom to the north is through the Lost Forest. Head north, then north again, north, and then north.
Here's the funny thing. My save file on my first playthrough said 11 hours, I believe, if you look at your save file at the bottom. But on Steam, it told me I'd played for 23 hours. So, but obviously Steam counts like time that you're idle and everything.
Right.
I don't think I was idle for 10 hours. So I think it's somewhere in between. I was like guessing around like 15 hours.
It took me like 5 days of kind of good long sessions to beat it. It's, I don't know. I don't know what people want. I want, as a fan of South Park, the things I want are Matt and Trey to work on a South Park game. So if that means we're going to get Matt and Trey and the team working on a South Park game and it's only a 15-hour game, awesome. Totally in. The problem is we've looked at how this has happened before. You get not the South Park team to work on a South Park game. It's not a very good game. Who cares how long it is if it's not a good game? Like, I don't know. The whole thing just confuses me.
Yeah, it did not feel, in a good way, it felt like a way longer than 10 or 15 hours. Like however long it took me to finish it, it felt way longer than that. And I think that's because it does such a great job of being representative of South Park, the show, and feeling like the show and looking like the show, and the writing being incredibly funny and crossing a lot of lines, but to me in a good way. That was what I cared about most. And when you watch one of those 20, 25-minute episodes, and you watch like a few of those, like this felt longer than actually an entire season of South Park. I felt like I got like a season or more's worth of like content in this game, and that's what my experience was with that game. Is an interactive version of the show. It nailed it on that aspect, and it felt long. Like even on playing through it the second time, I was like, dang, it took this long to get through this, and I know what to do. It feels, I think people need to stop focusing on the time played from the reviews and actually play it for themselves, and I think they'll walk away feeling a little bit better about that, honestly.
Do you unlock any other big maps other than that initial town?
You do have the whole town unlocked at the beginning. There are a few areas you just can't go to, like you can't go into the sewers right away. So the game's broken into days, essentially, and that feels like the episodes. And on the first completion of the first day, you get abducted by aliens. So you go up to the alien spaceship, then you crash land at the end into South Park, and that changes the landscape a bit.
Oh, cool.
Like there's like debris around and new parts open. You go to Canada at one point as well. And that's locked off till near the end. And that is a completely different part of the game. They did a nice thing. I won't spoil it, but that was a highlight of the game, was going to Canada.
Sorry, but I don't know what this says.
I've seen this language before, but I believe it's only spoken in a specific part of Canada. I suggest you travel west of here and seek out the Earl of Winnipeg. He can tell you where in Canada they speak this freakish tongue.
Well, I think it actually really benefits from being 2D. Like, as forced 2D as that show is, they can really recreate it. Like, you could never recreate The Simpsons, or like Naruto's come really close. But at the same time, it's like, while the world looks like it, it doesn't look like the show. Like, the show would be multiple different camera angles and action shots and stuff like that. Whereas South Park, it's like, this is it. Like, even when I'm doing gameplay, even in the turn-based segments, which you think would be completely alien to a game like South Park, it totally works. I can't think of many other shows that could make this transition that seamlessly. I almost thought it was a joke when I read it in the review, where you're like, it's one of the most seamless transitions between a show and a game. And I was like, oh, haha, because it's South Park. And then I'm like, oh wait, no, it probably is. Because it's all the voices, it's the writers. It's all the elements. That they obviously didn't have to recreate everything. Just kind of like poured it in. So as an RPG, you play lots of role-playing games. I mean, let's get into the mechanics here. Like, from just playing like an hour, 10 minutes of the game, it seemed like it was pretty straightforward as far as like, this item is better than this one. This class uses these types of items. Like, is it a good RPG?
To clarify on the actual classes at the beginning, I believe that only affects the 4 unique abilities you can power up throughout the game. Like, I picked the Jew class at first, so I started with the Sling of David.
You can't say it without laughing, right?
The Sling of David was the first ability I started to use, and you get like Circumscythe, and then you get the Plagues of Egypt. Whereas I saw you playing, you had the mage, you had like the Dragon Breath move, so you had like different attacks. But it seems like you can equip any kind of item. The first set of items you have to buy at the very beginning for that first, like, Carmen's like, go buy an item. That, I think, is restricted out to your class. But after that, unless the game just caters to the items you can only use, everything I saw, whether there was like a sword, a mace, a wand, my class could equip that with like no problem whatsoever. And so for that regard, like, the game's not very complicated, I'll say. It seems like it dumps a lot on you, and I would say the most complicated thing is probably the modifications to your weapon and gear, which are really important in making the game, even if you want to make the game incredibly easy. I didn't think the game was that difficult in particular. Even if you lose, like we were doing on the stream, when you lose, you just go to visit the Mormons in heaven, and then you reload to your nearest checkpoint, which is like a few seconds away, or sometimes right at the boss or enemy you just died at. So that was never an issue. I don't think the game is meant to be challenging in that way. There is a hardcore difficulty. It isn't that much more difficult. I think the point was they made the pacing of battles never felt like there was excessive grinding. It felt like you were always in a battle that you enjoyed. It was going at a great pace, and it lent itself well to making that realistic feel of the show. You didn't feel bogged down in these RPG mechanics that tend to hold some other games back. We would have held this game back, but people might have looked for like something like, I don't know, a lengthier or more meaty RPG.
Right.
That's not that's what you're gonna get here. You're gonna get like a very decent RPG system.
I mean, it's also like a game about little kids playing D&D, like LARPing.
Yeah,
so like
that's
the
the whole thing,
rules
yeah.
kind of change throughout the game. Not how you play, but like the mythology. Like they fuck with it throughout the game. So it's a bunch of little kids playing, right? It's really me coming up to you going, bam, 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 bam. But oh, I got hit a lot. Like, so they play that way. It feels like.
But there's still like a fine line between that, and that's what I really like about the show. That there's some things, there's some items that they wear. Them like, that's a sweet looking helmet. I wonder where they got that. You know, like there's the episode where they got like the ninja weapons.
Fun with weapons.
You know, like so, like there are things that they do, some spells that they do that like actually look like magic, or you know, some big like summons or something. And then at the same time, like the dragon's breath that I had was just a firecracker that they would use. I like when some guys lose, they don't die. They're just like, screw this, and they walk out of the fight. Like that's so great.
Yeah, I'm going home. Like, it's
It
very little
all
kid.
sticks to the lore of the show, and it feels believable within the confines of the show. Like even like Butters, when he gets his unique ability to transform into Professor Chaos, and he walks out there, because we all know in the show like this is like how Butters envisions himself.
Right.
But in the battle system, it's like no, that comes to like fruition. Like you are actually Professor Chaos. You do this incredible attack, then you return back to normal Butters, which is hilarious. But
well, it's even right. Like it's like your icon for your character doesn't look anything like you.
That, yeah.
Like I played a mage, and it looks like I'm like God with like long gray hair and this big beard, and like because that's how I'm this awesome battle mage. That's how me as a 4th grader pictures myself.
I also liked in the battle system, while we're talking about that, just that it is kind of timed inputs, that extra layer. I think if they didn't have that, the battle system would have been way too simplistic.
The game would have been, and you have to have those moments where it's timed. There's reactionary time, because you get to use those items before each battle or before each move in the battle. You could use an item, you could heal yourself, and then you could still fight. So not having those moments where you have to hit X at the right time would make the game feel way too easy.
They also gave you the ability to use like an item or one of your secondary class-specific, like Butter's like healing hand. You can use one of those, and then you could still make an offensive move. So you could take like a defensive maneuver and an offensive attack.
I beat the game. I'm still missing a ton of gear and weapons. And still some friends. Like I found all the chimp Pokemon, I found all the homeless people. I think I have 99 friends, so I'm trying to figure out if is it one more I'm missing?
There's
How do you know how many were
like
there
my
total?
first playthrough, I didn't even get the Mr. Hanky stuff. Like I
got him.
I missed that, and then the second playthrough, I was like, oh damn, I didn't get these.
Did I miss Big Gay Al on that phone call?
If you didn't get that phone call, that is a friend.
God damn it. Okay, that's what I thought, and I couldn't figure out how to like answer the phone. How do you answer that phone?
You just walk up to it and push A.
Oh motherfucker!
And then
I was trying to shoot it at first, and it only rings like twice because you're not tall enough to like actually touch the button.
Yeah, I think
when you get to that point of the game, just run up to it and press A. You'll know what I'm talking about.
And you'll like that part of the game.
Fuck.
I
can't believe it. So that's the one I missed.
Wow.
Then.
That seemed pretty straightforward.
No, I think it was, and I was just like, I was cracking up about something else and not really paying attention, and
it's hard to focus at that part.
And it's like, you've never had to answer a phone before, so it's just like, I don't know how, do I need to run up to that? And by the time, it only rings twice.
I didn't know that. I answered it right away.
Yeah, it rings twice, and I wasn't paying attention. I was like, God damn it, and I tried to run over to it, and it was too late.
Yeah, he's trying to get a hold of Mr. Slave.
I assume so. I mean, I assumed I knew where that was going.
Yeah.
Just angry I didn't pick it up.
Ooh, Jesus! Hello?
Recently, Michael, a couple things have happened in the industry, and we just, we want to pick your brain. So, Ken Levine and Irrational has dissolved at this point, and Ken is now taking a team of 15 and creating a digital-only game, something much smaller. What do you think that means for the industry?
For the industry, nothing unless Ken does something so frame-breaking and so ridiculously successful that everybody else emulates. If it's, Ken just taking a stab at storytelling in a different way, and Ken is fine if they sell, a small $15 game and do 1 million units sold and they make modest profit. I mean, that's a great deal for 15 people. Then it won't move the industry needle at all. I think what it really says is you got Ken, who's a 40-something-year-old guy who's been doing this for 20 years, and I think he's tired. And I think he just came off of a bear of a project, which, if you played the game, was a work of art. And I think he's just tired and he's burned out, and he's not the first guy to do this. I think it's kind of common for guys who get to be up there, 40-something, and have been doing the same thing for 20 years to want to try something different. And he will pull it off. Whatever he does is going to be great. And I don't think he cares if it sells 1 million units or 20 million units. I think he's just trying to create something that's really fun.
Do you think it's a nail in the coffin for the...
I think it's actually a nail in the coffin for the BioShock franchise. I think that one of Take-Two's strengths as a company is also one of their greatest weaknesses, and that is that they allow the developers there to have complete control over IP. And I think that makes the developers so integral to the success of the IP that if you swap out a developer, the product's just not going to be the same. I think I read, and I think they told me, 500 developers total, and artists, have worked on the Assassin's Creed franchise. Like that isn't one studio, that's like 5 different 100-person studios. And I don't know if you play Assassin's Creed, but each one seems better than the one before. You know, maybe except for Brotherhood. They've done a pretty good job. You know, it's like there's this, it feels like the same game because there's enough of the same people working on it, but there isn't any person that is identified with the franchise that is so essential that, you know, Patrice Désilets left and the game was fine. You know, it doesn't really matter. So I like that studio model better from a financial perspective because I think investors don't want to take the risk of, you know, the one person getting upset and petulant and leaving. But you can't argue with Take-Two's success. Grand Theft Auto does just fine with the same guys working on it every time. So, you know, there's 2 different ways to approach it. I think that probably the greater financial success is the games that you don't know who the developer is. But so we care about Ken because he's so closely identified with the BioShock brand.
Hi, I'm Rob, and I'm here with Jonathan and Chris, and we're talking Path of Exile, and specifically Sacrifice of the Vaal. So for people who aren't familiar with Path of Exile, what is this game?
So Path of Exile is an online action RPG. We've got a focus on deep character customization, and we're targeting a sort of hardcore PC audience, so, you know, we like to keep the game challenging.
So when you say hardcore, some of the stuff is really complicated and deep, kind of like the skill system that you have.
Yeah, we've tried to make the game as accessible as possible for new players, but there's a ton of depth under the surface. So the skill system, for example, the individual skills aren't that difficult to master, but there are so many different ways you can combine them with support gems, combine them with other skills potentially, and there's an awful lot of combinations of different skills you can have, especially when you consider our passive skill tree that has, I think, 1,400 nodes now as of this mini expansion.
And then the active skills are a completely different system, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, so the active skills are things you can link together. The passive skills are things you can't. And those sort of, you know, those are the different areas of character customization. You know, we found that players really love, you know, being able to use a system that has so much depth, and you know, they come up with interesting builds all the time. You know, they like to stream them and so on. That's really cool.
Now, there's so many different combinations of skills. Do the players ever surprise you with the builds that they come up with?
Yeah, there are some crazy builds. We see people they'll pick a skill not for what it's meant for, but for some side effect, and then they'll just use that as a way of combining it with other skills. I mean, there was a build that we saw recently where a player would use this shield charge skill to dart into a group of monsters, using it entirely so that he can set the whole lot on fire at once, which has nothing to do with the fact he hit them with the shield, but entirely to do with the damage bonus it gives while charging.
What is Sacrifice of Vaal?
So Sacrifice of the Vaal is a mini expansion. We're adding a bunch of content. We're adding it all through the game. Overall, it rounds out a lot of areas that we thought we were slightly lacking in, and generates a whole bunch of new content for players to play as well.
And one of the things that you're putting in are some new leagues. Now, before we talk about the new leagues, what exactly are the leagues in the game?
So leagues are basically game modes that you can play in, and each one has a self-contained economy. So when you start a new league, it's a place that players can play where they've got a fresh new ladder, they've got fresh new items to find, and everyone's on a level playing field. So every 4 months we try to start a pair of new leagues, one for normal players and one for hardcore players. And it's a place which causes a lot of people to return to the game and to play the leagues feverishly for a few months, and then they're looking forward to the next set. For the players who don't like to play one long-term character for year after year, basically. Just like every 4 months, we have 2 new leagues. One of them is softcore, one of them is hardcore, and one of them is called Ambush, the other is Invasion. They both have sort of new and interesting properties about them.
I'm going to be playing the more casual one. What's in that new league for me?
So the Ambush League has a variety of chests that you can find throughout the game that ambush you when you open them. And these are quite a lot more extravagant chests than normal. When you open them, a group of 10 monsters spawns around you in a circle. Now the cool thing about these chests is you can craft different mods onto them using the same crafting system that the game has built in for items. So you can kind of spend some of your currency items that you find to make the encounters more challenging rather than improving your gear. And of course the reason you're doing this is because the better the chests are, the better the drops, and you might get something lucky from them.
It comes out when?
March 5th.
And how much is it going to cost me?
It's completely free, like the core game. There's absolutely no sale of content going on here. The only thing that we charge for are cosmetic, aesthetic microtransactions. They just change how your skills look, how your character looks. You get to dress up a little bit. And that's proven incredibly successful with our audience. They love supporting us and really like making their characters look distinct.
I was talking to one of the guys here at the office, and he described it as free to play, but not in an evil way.
Yeah,
I mean, we try to call our system ethical microtransactions because we really don't like the kind of selling of power, selling of X potions and that kind of thing. We're not a fan of that.
It's just not really compatible with a competitive game like this. If your players are racing up the leaderboard and having fun showing off the items they found, it would kind of defeat the purpose if they could buy those.
Can't wait to see the new expansion. We're going to be playing it here at the office. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much.